Welcome to another episode of PSL on the Mic, the city's official podcast. Today we're in the studio again with Mayor Shannon Martin. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
We are going to have a little short recap of last week's City Council winter workshop, and then we're going to answer some frequently asked questions that I keep seeing on social media, you keep seeing on social media, and I'm sure you get phone calls to City Council office about all the time. So I watched 2 days of last week's winter workshop. I would have watched 3, however, I was off on Friday. But it seemed very, very productive.
It was. It was a great workshop for sure.
Good. Now, before we get into some of the major issues, or I hate using the word issues, major topics. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. Topics that were discussed. Talk about the winter workshop and the summer workshop. What exactly it's for, and what does council do with the information that you received from there?
So what's great about our February workshop is an opportunity for the council to hear from all of our different departments on project updates and things that they're working on, things that may have cropped up that they need further direction on that they hadn't had previously, especially when it comes to road projects and council priorities throughout our strategic plan that we are implementing on a daily basis. And it's also our first glance at our budget. And so take a look at how we're trending in terms of all of our different revenue streams that we have, and to see where our expenditures are trending as well, and also get department input on their high impact plan of what they're working on and what they're strategically planning for in the future. And then a first glance at the employees that we're going to need to add, or we potentially could need to add. Or I should say the city manager needs to recommend to be
so
added.
hiring of staffers. Okay.
Of staff going into the next budget year.
Okay.
Because our fiscal year starts October 1 and it ends September 30th, so we're on a different cycle. But that first budget process starts at our February workshop, and then from there we move into strategic planning, where we get all our feedback and our data points from our citizen survey and our great citizen summit that we've had, and we can add on and build our strategic plan before we go into our summer workshop, where we focus a lot more heavily on our budget.
Okay, because that's literally pretty much right before the end of the fiscal.
Yes, because in June is when we get our taxable value numbers from the property appraiser's office, and then that gives the city manager and our budget team the real numbers of what we have to work with.
Good.
And then they can make determinations with the departments on staffing needs, such as more police officers or more public works employees in order to deal with the infrastructure and the growth that's coming and those kind of things.
Awesome. And if anyone missed the winter workshop, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. Just search for City Port St. Lucie, and you can watch all 3. We streamed it live there, and it went really well.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest topics that was discussed was swale liners. We were going to get rid of swale liners, and now we are not going to get rid of swale liners. So explain what happened at the workshop.
Yeah, so about over a year ago, our staff took a look at our swale liner program, and at the time it was determined that we could be saving money if we were to eliminate the actual liners, because we're the only city in the state that really uses them anymore.
And for everyone listening, those are the black plastic liners on the bottom of the swale.
Yeah. Right, that help funnel the water through the swale system into the drainage areas. And so it was presented to us at the time that we could save money by not utilizing them anymore, and also it would be better for water quality. And so we listened to that recommendation, and we decided to end the swale liner program. However, we also asked our public works team to come back to us with a program to put in place, because our swale system is important.
Of course.
And also because we did have people that have been waiting for swale liners or their swales in total to be dug for several years. We wanted to make sure those people who have been waiting so long, their needs have been addressed first.
Right.
So when we had the staff come back and the city council members had one-on-ones, and the reason why we have one-on-ones is because that sunshine law prohibits us from talking outside of a public meeting. So it's typical that staff comes and has conversations with us one-on-one in one-on-one meetings. And I know I had a lot of angst on what was presented in terms of doing a rework program, because what was presented to me originally was that we were going to get rid of the swale liner program, but what they had to rework the program was going to cost a lot more.
Okay.
And it was going to end up being over a longer period of time, and we'd have to go back and touch the swales twice. And that does not make sense at all. It didn't make sense when they brought it forward. So I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We need to go back and relook at this.
And how long? Wasn't it something, I heard 20 years or something?
Yes, so they would have to touch the swales twice, and it would be between a 20-year period and a 50-year period.
Oh, wow.
And that is just completely unacceptable.
Yeah.
Our swales liner program is part of our all over stormwater program, and it's just a small portion of that program.
Correct.
But it's what our residents see as front-facing, because that's what's in front of their yards, and
Right.
they see when the water comes, when the drainage from the rainfall comes, especially in high rains, heavy rains, that's what they see. And the swales are the things that catch that stormwater and bring it out. So then our stormwater assessment fee pays for the swale liner
Right.
system and the maintenance of such. And so they came back to us with on the one-on-ones, and I know I was unhappy, and apparently other council members must have been unhappy too, because then we had an informal meeting. We were all together with staff, and then they brought forward and showed us, well, let's go back. Here's some options, and it will cost less to go back to our original program. And so they gave us two options, but the recommendation was to do that. And so based on the numbers and the time it would take to go back and readdress the swale system and make sure that we put them in the places where now the builders were no longer required, we wanted to make sure that we got that going off the bat, because it's been over a year now.
Right.
And so it is going to cost us less. And plus, our residents have come to like the 6 times a year of that the swales do get maintained by the city.
By the city,
Even
yep.
though it is really the residents' responsibility to maintain their swales. So all in all, from a business standpoint, it made much better sense to go back to the original program. So that's what we're doing. The ordinance will come back to us hopefully in March.
Okay.
But in the meantime, the city's letting everyone know, the building community know, that we are going to go back to that program, and they're going to have to do whatever it takes in order to cut down that time frame because of the delays. And we actually talked about needing more crews as a result in the beginning in order to get that going. And so we directed the staff to come back to us to see what that looks like too, in preparation for our budget, because the council expressed a willingness to add some more funds in order to get
good.
it done faster because of that extra delay.
Yeah, we have a lot of information about swales on our website, cityofpsl.com/swales. And we also have information on another section of our website too, cityofpsl.com/NPDES. I'll put everything in the show notes for everyone, because like the mayor was saying, there are 6, the city will clean it 6 times a year, but it is the homeowner or the property owner really has to take care of their soil, make sure that there's nothing blocking the swale, that it's landscaped properly so the water can keep flowing.
Yeah, and the other issue was a water quality issue, and so I know everyone's concerned about that, and I don't want anyone to think that we are putting water quality aside. We are not doing that at all.
Definitely not.
Keeping the swale liner system reduces the water quality in that sense a little bit, but the city has over $250 million worth of projects that we are working on a regular basis in terms of water quality. Our baffle boxes are a perfect example of that, because they catch the sediment, and it cuts down on the nitrogen and the phosphorus that goes into our water bodies. So there are other ways to address water quality, and we will continue to do everything we can to be, still be the vanguards of that.
Yep. It definitely sounds like this was the best option for swale liners.
Absolutely.
So solid waste. I'm going to grab stats from Mariana and add them to the show notes and share them on social media. But we had some really good news about solid waste over the past year and a half. I guess we're coming up on 2 years.
Yes,
right?
September will
In
be
September?
2 years. So we got an update on what that looks like in terms of complaints and what in terms of what residents
Calls to one PSL or
what
stuff
they're
like that.
asking
Yep.
for. And really, the complaints have gone down quite significantly, and that was great to see. That's what we had hoped to see. FCC is doing a great job. So in terms of regular garbage pickup, the complaints, like I said, have gone down drastically. And most of the calls are not really complaints anymore. They're really requests for
Yep.
garbage cans or new recycling bins, or perhaps a resident wants an additional can and that they can pay for. So that's what we're really seeing. And so FCC has really stepped up to the plate, and they're doing a great job. We're still having some issues on the bulk waste side. And so our staff is reevaluating that and taking a look at what measures we can take and what the cost would be to address bulk waste in a better way. There's still a lot of people that are putting stuff out when they're not supposed to,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit challenging. And there's ways that we can address it going forward. And our solid waste team is working with FCC to see how we can address it, and then it'll come back to us at the summer workshop and
Okay, good.
and all the recommendations, and we'll see what that looks like.
So this is also, once we get towards the end of this podcast, that's a frequently asked question is about garbage and pickups. But we had the National Community Survey, yes, that I think it closed last week.
Yes.
Tons of people took it from what I'm hearing. There was a question on there about solid waste. Talk about that.
Yeah, so the question was, would you be willing to pay extra money to go back to second 2 times a week, to twice a week pickup?
Right.
And the reason for that is because when residents ask a question, and we get a lot of that, we want to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the community. So we put the question on there on whether residents will be willing to pay more. Now, nobody wants to pay more, I understand that, but the reality is, if you want additional service, we're going to have to pay more for that. And so the answers to that will help us gauge whether or not we need to put it on a referendum for the residents to decide. Because if everyone remembers, back when when the cancellation of the contract happened with Waste Pro, we had a very short amount of time, less than 6 months.
We did.
In order to get an emergency contract. And usually that takes about 18 to 24 months in order to accomplish. So we had to make those decisions on behalf of our residents, and that's what we were elected to do. And we didn't have the opportunity to put it on a referendum. But this time around, we're gauging that interest to see if it's worth putting on a referendum or not. I know a lot of people are happy with the once a week, and you do have the option as a resident to get that additional can. Like I said, it'll be interesting to see, because a lot of the comments that I've seen lately based on the survey is, we're good, we don't need an additional week, and people
I've seen
should
the
get
same.
the extra can. So, but again, we'll see what that comes out of that. And it's just a measure of constantly evaluating based on what our residents say that they're looking for. And so that's how we balance it out and figure that out.
Good. Let's
The
bring it
data
to the
points.
people. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Parks and Rec had a few nice big things that we can talk about.
Yep.
That's happening with Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, we have several parks that are in different phases right now. Tradition Regional Park, all the earthwork is being done. That's the partnership with Mattamy. Also, we found out recently that the county is giving a certain amount of money in impact fee credits to also help pay for that park.
Oh, awesome.
Right? So I think it was $2 million.
Okay.
So that's a huge help as well. And later this year, we'll do a groundbreaking. It was just important to get all the bottom earthwork done and the infrastructure that was needed for that. And so the first phase will be multi-purpose fields, baseball field. And the reason for that is because we don't have enough parks and we don't have enough fields. in
There's
Port
definitely
St.
a
Lucie.
need.
There's a huge need for
Yeah.
it as our population continues to grow. Because the way our population is growing, it's families. So we're seeing more families move
Yeah.
to Port St. Lucie than senior citizens. So we need to address that for all of our residents. So that was one good thing that is really on the move right now. Riverland Paseo Park
Yeah.
is almost done.
I heard that.
And that is on Community Boulevard. And also multi-purpose field there, lighted field. for more football, soccer, and our softball fields will be over there. So by summer, that entire park should be completed.
That's amazing. I see lots of comments on social media about softball fields. So that's great because they are a little bit smaller than baseball fields, correct? Or are they the same?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know all those
probably
technical
not
details. I know they can be converted back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the plan with some of them. But it'll be good because the softball field are definitely a bigger need. And some of our softball teams have grown quite significantly because of the population increase. Yep. So they'll be able to shift from where they're playing now over to Tradition Regional Park because there'll be more fields over there.
Good. And did we hear anything about Torino Regional Park?
So Torino is the design conceptual design, I should say, is almost complete. I believe that's going to get brought back to council in April.
Okay.
And then we'll be able to move forward from there with going out to RFP for someone to actually build the park once council blesses the concept.
Okay.
And it should be noted that the concept was derived from many ways that we've reached out to our citizens about what they want to see in the park. We've had public information meetings. I know that I've talked to people. We have talked about it on council before in terms of what we are looking for. So there's been a lot of discussion, public discussion on what the initial concept should look like. And then once we bless it again, we'll move forward and get that park rolling because it needs to be done.
I know. I was out there this past weekend with my parents. We went to a new Italian restaurant that was out there, and they were amazed at just how much is out there already. I said, well, there's going to be a big park here in a few years. And that we had an entire podcast on that too, which I'll share in the show notes with Kelly Boatwright. We talked about that. It was a great podcast.
And Pioneer Park is
coming up. Yeah,
that is so exciting. We're looking at June. I think it was
mid-June for a grand opening. Yep.
Absolutely. So that's well underway.
With the port as well.
Yes.
And we'll be sharing information about that, I think, pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to skip over one item from Parks and Rec because that's an FAQ. Let's talk about our awesome police department and what they discussed at the winter workshop.
Yep. So we are in year 5 of the police department strategic plan for the implementation of District 5.
Yep.
And we are almost fully implemented right now. There are still 6 sergeants that need to be implemented into the plan. And as we have more people coming out of the academy and coming out of field training later this year, we will be able to, the police department will be able to promote the final 6 sergeants that are needed in order to completely fill District 5. Yep. And so we're going to celebrate that at some point later on in the year, probably out in the Tradition area, since all those officers will be working out there. And our police training facility. We're going to be breaking ground on that in this August. That's exciting. And then we did something historic in the police department, which has never been done before.
Do tell.
And that is we are going to have our own police academy. Normally how it works is, and IRSC runs our police academy. IRSC runs the fire academy as well. But when they run the police academy, the students go and they can end up working for any agency that they want to work for. But because we need to fill 40 positions that the council has allocated in order to make sure that we're maintaining the level of service we need to for our growing population, we decided, or the police department decided, to partner with the college so that we have 30 recruits, all that once they're done and once they're certified and once they get through all their backgrounds, they will be working for the Port St. Lucie Police Department.
So great.
And I think it was a great innovation that they came up with. It's something different. We challenged them to come up with different recruiting tactics because it is hard to get police officers.
It sure is.
Right now.
I've been talking with people over in PD for social media ads and recruitment companies. It's really tough.
So I thought that was great, and so we'll be seeing that. That academy will start in May. I believe out of the 30, they already have 15 spots filled,
Halfway
which is
there.
great.
That's awesome.
And so, they'll go through that, and then after 12 to 16 weeks of field training, they'll be out on the road as well. So
yeah, there were some news stories recently about that, so it's great to see positive news about City of Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
I'm going to combine these last 2 little recap items about our budget and debt because we've really decreased our debt over the past decade.
Yes.
I think. So let's talk
Yes.
about that and also the upcoming budget, of what you could tell us.
Sure.
Yeah.
So our, if people remember, people who have been here a long time, back in 2010, which is when I got on the council, I was first elected, the city had over $1 billion in debt. I believe it was $1,042,000. And since that time, our council has made it a priority to reduce that debt as much as possible. Now, it's important to note that not all debt is bad debt. Bad debt would be the failed economic investments that we had. That would be the consideration for that. And that's when the city backstopped private development and private companies, which no longer happens. We have a policy in place since 2016 that we do not do that.
Right.
But the other part is good debt. And good debt is our utility system and constantly being able to take out bonds to pay for the improvements. Or we took out a bond a few years ago for Tradition Park, Regional Park, Torino Regional Park, our police training facility that's going to be built.
It's all good debt.
And for some signalization. And the reason why debt is looked at in a good way as far as government is concerned is because you want to, especially in a city where we have a growing population, you don't want just the existing taxpayers to keep funding that debt through their taxes. You want the new people moving in to pay for it
Correct.
over the long haul as well. It's just like similarly to a mortgage.
Sure. I would
mortgage
say good
payment.
debt is a house. You have a house mortgage.
Right. Or if you need a car and you can't cash fund your car and you
Yep.
don't want to, you want to take out a loan for that. So, and that's the good debt that we have, but we've been able to reduce it by over $300 million over the last decade, and by the end of fiscal year 24, which will be September 30th, we'll have reduced it down to $619 million.
Wow.
So
Good job.
And if you look
That's
at, we showed the benchmarks between our city and other cities around us. And as of the end of the fiscal year, we will be number 2 in the state in terms of the lowest debt per capita, per citizen.
Wow.
So we've got that number down from around 6,500 down to about 3,200 per citizen,
Okay.
which is huge. And the also important differentiation between us and other cities is that, like I mentioned, we're still growing.
Yep.
We still have 40% build out, right?
You
But-
said what? 15 years will be 400,000?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep.
But cities like Miami and Orlando and Pembroke Pines and Hialeah, they're all built out. So we're unique in that sense that we still have very, very low debt compared to these other larger cities, and we're still growing. So that's a testament to us being very fiscally responsible, having great debt policies, and it's also been very favorable because it's when we've been able to call our debt or refund it, we've been able to take advantage of the interest rates on the bond market with those lower rates.
Right.
Because our bond rating is so high.
Yep.
And it keeps increasing as a result of the strong fiscal policies that we have. And in addition to that, over the same time period, we've had a net present value savings of over $100 million.
What does that mean?
And so that's the savings that we've accumulated by
Okay.
doing the refundings.
Oh, okay.
And,
Okay.
And it's important to know as well that when we do the refundings and we get the lower interest rates, we are not extending the terms of the bonds. Because that's what people ask too, is like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, well, you're getting a lower interest rate, but are you making the bonds
Another
go out?
10 years or
Yeah,
something.
and we are not doing that.
Good.
We're keeping the same terms, but we're paying down as much as we possibly can, and we're trying to take advantage of those lower interest rates, which saves our taxpayers money.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anything about the budget you want to talk about?
So budget-wise, we're looking at, once again, lowering the millage rate as much as we possibly can. The city manager right now is looking at reducing the crosstown fund once again.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right. So we're going to do everything we can to incrementally lower our millage rate while still balancing out the fact that we are growing and that we're going to have more needs, like have to hire more police, have to hire more public works individuals to address all these projects coming up.
Right.
But that's what it's about. It's about putting residents first, but also balancing the needs because we have to make sure that we can still maintain or increase or enhance the level of service that we're providing to our community.
And it's such a crazy balance, too.
It is. It's a hard balance. There's a lot of priorities.
We just keep growing.
Yeah. And the priorities are different between the people who have been here a long time and the new people coming in. And so it's important that we listen to everybody and figure out what those needs are and what those balances are.
I don't want to be in your shoes, but I'm glad that you're there.
Want to be mayor for a day?
Maybe we should probably try that, but make something like I don't want to go to a council meeting.
I don't blame you.
No,
you don't want to run a meeting?
No,
Okay.
No. This is good enough for me. So let's hop right into these FAQs.
Sure.
I see them all the time. You see them all the time.
Yep.
We get phone calls about them all the time. I'm going to hit on the biggest one that I've seen lately, and it's when is the Whispering Pines Park Playground going to open?
So
I believe we have a date.
Yes.
Or a time frame.
Yes.
Yeah.
It should be by the end of March.
Okay.
They've had some delays. There's been some equipment issues, but it's all getting worked out. And by the end of March, that playground should be complete.
And it's going to be a playground similar to several that we already have in the city, namely like Jessica Clinton Park. There won't be a lot of hearts there because that was for Jessica Clinton, for that park for her. She died of a heart problem.
Yes.
But this is going to be a playground for people of all abilities.
That's right.
So it's kind of similar to Sportsman's. Sportsman's was upgraded that way too.
Yes. We want to make sure we have inclusivity throughout the city, and so that all children, regardless of their capabilities, have the opportunity to be able to interact and play with each other and their families.
Yep, I love that. So that's about mid to late March,
Yeah.
we'll say.
Yes.
Property taxes. This could be a really long discussion, so let's we'll shorten it a little. We have an entire podcast about taxes. Again, I'll put it in the show notes. You guys can listen to it again. It was one of, I think, the second one we ever did.
Probably,
or third one
yeah.
we ever did. Our property taxes. Explain very briefly about a tax bill and exactly what people in Port St. Lucie are paying.
So you get a combined tax bill from the tax collector, and on that tax bill has 17 different taxing authorities. And so the city of Port St. Lucie's only has 2 line items on that tax bill, and that equates to 22% of your overall tax bill. So when everyone says Port St. Lucie has the highest taxes, for our city alone, we do not have the highest taxes. We are actually the 3rd lowest in the state out of the top 20 cities. So that's a misnomer, and I think it gets misconstrued with the fact of the whole county.
Right.
Because our county is known to have, all around, known to have the highest in the state. But people don't realize it, and they think that tax bill that comes from the tax collector, all the money goes to the city.
Because we're the biggest city.
Because we are the
Yes.
biggest city, and
Right.
of course you live in the city, so you make that assumption.
Right.
But we have 2 line items on the tax bill. The rest goes to the county, the jail, the fire district, because we have a separate fire district, which
Right.
is a unique special taxing district. Unlike other cities where the fire departments are baked into the city. So that's unique. And then you have Children's Services Council, you have mosquito control.
Schools.
You have the schools, which
Yep.
is huge because you not only have the school, but you have the school referendum of
Right.
$1 million that was done several years ago to pay for school security and for teacher pay. And
Which is
that
all good.
It is good.
Yep.
But that is a referendum that gets passed every 4 years, and it was reauthorized by the citizens back in 2022.
Yep.
So, but the city only receives 22% of your overall tax bill. And you can compare those line items year to year. And especially during tax time, we put out that information.
Yep.
And it's something that I constantly have to talk about because
Yeah.
people don't understand.
Right. That brings us to homeowners insurance. Can the city help get it lowered? Does the city have anything to do with homeowners insurance?
We don't.
Yes.
I wish we did. I will say, though, and we had a podcast on our insurance service rating when it comes to the water supply.
Right.
We definitely help because we have a state-of-the-art utility system. And because of the fact that our firefighters have access to water, especially in certain locations, it's enabled us to have a much lower rating. We're a level 2. The highest is a level 1.
Right.
So we help in that regard in terms of being able to keep it lower, but we have no control whatsoever over the rates. That's something that the state government has some control over. I know there's some bills that are funneling
The
through
legislature, right?
that are right now, and the legislative session ends March 8th, so we'll know by next week what comes out of that for sure, because I'm sure they're all in their different committee stops, and those bills have to go to the House and Senate floors to get approval. So, and from what I've read, they are trying to make some changes with regard to lowering the rates, but that is all on the state. We can't do anything about that here locally.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip over our frequently asked question about garbage pickup since we just discussed it.
Sure.
Port St. Lucie Boulevard.
The bane of my existence.
And how long it's taking to complete.
Yeah, so
Do we have an answer?
Well, we have an answer based on what Florida Department of Transportation has shared with us, because it is controlled. That project is managed and controlled by FDOT. And what's happened there? So the contractors had missteps over the course. They've had 2 water main breaks, so that's caused delays. They had a gas line break. Most recently, they had a issue where there was old piping under the ground, and they were trying to fill it with concrete because that's what the requirement is. And
right.
I don't know all the technical stuff, but I know basically that's what the requirement is. And when they were pumping that, there was a pipe. One of the pipes broke, and it caused all the fill to come up and push up the asphalt as a result. So that was another issue that had to be dealt with. But it's important to note that even though DOT controls it, they are saying that it should be done by June, hopefully.
Okay.
And I want our citizens to also know that through that contract, because they've gone over the time, they are in the liquidated damage phase of the contract, in which means that there's a dollar amount assigned per day for every day that it takes them in order to finish the road.
Okay.
And so they're paying, they're getting charged $3,700 a day for every day that it takes them to finish as a result of them not getting done by December 31st of 2023.
Okay.
So for everyone who thinks that, no, we just let these contracts go and no one's paying attention or we never get anything in return, they are being penalized, and that will come out of the ultimate funding. That it'll be reduced by that amount, whatever the final amount is. And so they will be paid less as a result of them taking so long to complete.
Okay.
Because to be honest with you, it does hold up everything, other projects. And a perfect example of that is our Tulip Roundabout.
I'm literally sharing information about that today that we
Yes.
received from Public Works.
Right. And so that project, PSL Boulevard was supposed to be done, and we needed to start the Tulip Roundabout project. But it's all in the same vicinity, and there's detours as a result.
Same corner. Yep.
So now we got a memo today that project is going to be delayed till the summer, so that PSL Boulevard South gets done first,
Right.
to help reduce any further traffic congestion in the area, because it is a sore spot, is a frustration. I
Been
feel
going on
it.
for a while.
I live in
Yep.
the southwest portion of the city, and to come to the workshop the other day, it took me 45 minutes to get here from my house. It's 6 miles.
Yeah.
And it's because of all the congestion. So I feel the pain just like everyone else does. And, having to go different routes is frustrating as well. But we're trying to do everything we can to get the project done. We're talking to DOT all the time, or our Public Works is. And we are going to wait to do the Tulip project until this one gets done to help alleviate some concern.
And this way, too, it will not be season.
Right.
There's so many people here right now.
Yes.
Some of our winter residents will be going up north, so there'll be a little bit less congestion.
And
I
the
think.
school buses won't be in operation as
It
well.
will be summer, yes. It's a good call there.
Yeah.
So the boardwalk, we have a couple more. So the boardwalk has been started to go underneath the Port St. Lucie Boulevard Bridge.
Absolutely.
I believe it started this week or last week. I was speaking with our CRA director, Jen Davis, and she was sharing information with me and says that it should be complete by early spring,
Yes.
which is awesome.
It is awesome because then when Pioneer Park is open, then that'll be open before the park opens, and then it ensures that entire connectivity that we've been looking for.
Right.
For that boardwalk
And it took a
parcel.
little while, too, because it was, I'll read it here, there were multiple permitting agencies, including FDOT, FDEP. So even though that they're still working on that process, they did get the go-ahead and go under the bridge now.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that. It'll be so great.
There's lots of residents that'll be really excited about it.
Yeah.
I've seen some comments already, so everyone's looking forward to it for sure.
They are. And we have one last question, which actually came up yesterday or this morning. But it's been talked about over the past couple years, but it's starting to perk up again. Backyard chickens. Does the city allow backyard chickens?
We do not allow backyard chickens. I think we get confused with the county a lot.
Yeah.
The county has a code where they allow a certain number of chickens and there's certain restrictions, and people think that county code affects us as well, but it doesn't. We have our own codes and our own rules and regulations, and you cannot have backyard chickens inside the boundaries of the city of Port St. Lucie. I know some people want them. I understand that. However, the council does not believe, and we last took this up back in November of 2022, and the council does not believe that allowing backyard chickens is a good fit for our community. And I'll speak for myself, and the reason why is in a city of our size and all of the code issues that we have 13 code officers that handle this entire city.
Wow.
And trying to be able to enforce even more and when we allow chickens. If we were to allow chickens, it's really an unsustainable burden at this time. And, you know, it's not about the people that are going to do the right thing, because there are many people out there that would do the right thing with regard to chickens and keeping them a certain way and making sure that they're not clean and making sure they're not affecting neighbors.
Right.
But it's a situation where it could get out of control because the people that don't follow the rules, and we just don't have the staffing and the enforcement mechanisms in order to handle that. So that's that, and that's the reality of it. There are other priorities that are more important, and our first priority in Port St. Lucie and our strategic goals is being safe, clean, and beautiful city. And so we have an obligation to continue to maintain that and enhance that as well. So you cannot have chickens in Port St. Lucie.
In the county, but not
Yes.
within city limits.
Right.
Mayor, thank you so much for addressing these FAQs. I'm sure we'll have another podcast episode answering more FAQs.
Definitely.
Did we miss anything? I think we ran the gamut here. We
Yeah.
we
we're good.
answered a bunch of them. So thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us, and we'll see everybody next time.
Anytime. Good to see you.